Logos Faith Development invites you to leverage the church's greatest physical asset, property and buildings, to meet the needs of people by providing needed housing as ministry in Jesus' name. If you're a church leader, investor, or just interested in the idea, listen in to discover a cutting-edge initiative that leverages your building and property for kingdom impact in your community. Welcome back, everybody, to our podcast, Repurposing the Church, a podcast of Logos Faith Development. Thanks for taking time to listen to this episode in which we are going to be talking about the best use of church facilities. Now, I know that every one of you thinks that you're using your facilities to maximum impact, and I just want to put a little bit of a suggestion in your mind that that might not actually be accurate. I'm not saying that they're being misused, but I'm just saying there might be better ways, or there might be ways to improve how you're using your facilities. And remember that those are facilities that God has entrusted to your care. So I'm here with Martin Porter, founder and CEO of Logos, and we're going to talk about that subject, Martin, best use of our facilities. So when you, as a developer, drive by or walk into a facility, you're automatically thinking about how this facility is being used. Walk us through a little bit of your thinking as through a developer's eyes when you walk into a church building, because not all of us have that ability to do that because we're coming at it as pastors and, you know, we look at it in a certain way. But tell us what goes through your mind.
At this point, as an affordable housing developer,
Yeah.
When I look at a church facility, I look at a sanctuary, a parking lot, fellowship hall, ministry spaces, flex space, maybe there's classrooms, etc. I'm really looking mostly for the raw dirt or the possibility of a clearing to build a ground-up affordable housing project.
What do you mean by clearing?
Meaning that there's enough square footage generally separate from the sanctuary. And this is a good thing. So as an affordable housing developer, and the reason why I say at this tick of the clock is because we're wanting to move into adaptive reuse and being able to help churches work through different questions as it relates to their current buildings above and beyond just we want to build this ground up affordable. But the answer to your question at this moment is when I'm looking at a church and I'm looking at a worship space, I'm typically thinking, where in the properties that this church has, do they have enough square footage to build a ground-up affordable housing project? Unless that church says to me, we want to have a new church. And if they say that—
As in a new building.
As in a new building.
Yeah.
Then I'm having a conversation with them about having that new worship space be a part of a new project. It be incorporated in a new project.
Okay.
And so oftentimes we might say, right-sizing them. So they've had a sanctuary of 600 people.
Yeah.
Could sit 600. But the reality is they have 50 on a Sunday. How can we build you a great 150-seat space?
Do you have any churches that come that are churches of 50 and now they're running 600 and you gotta, you know what I'm saying? Does it go the other way?
Not at this moment. What I would say is, what am I looking for? Is I'm looking for enough land to build. And then I'm taking a look at their current worship center.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, how could this new development add value by providing enough revenue to be able to take care of their aged out HVAC system, their roof that's falling apart, their pews that need refurbishing, the paint that's chipping, the carpet that they need a new carpet, et cetera, for. So I'm thinking, how do I leverage the new development to help with the current sanctuary space?
So it really is more about footprint. You start with footprint of the plot, and then what are the improvements on that, and how could those best be used?
Yes. I mean, what I want to do is for us to be, for Logos, and it isn't that we don't have the capacity. What I want us to do is to be more sophisticated and to be able to offer more solutions. For example, here's a church that has 3 or 4 buildings that are beautiful buildings. And one of them could be repurposed into a cafe. One of them could be repurposed into a charter school. So right now I'm taking a hammer every time out of my toolbox, and the hammer is, we're going to build you 50, 100, 150 units of affordable housing. Now, that's going to produce substantial income and revenue for the church. That's an added value. It's going to house The least of the lost and the left out are those with economic challenges in the community. That's a value. And it's going to create new ministry opportunities. That's a value. But what if I could take out a drill and a saw and multiple tools? And the way to do that is to say, what are other things we could do with your current buildings to bring them back to life through what's called adaptive reuse, to adapt them and then reuse them for something new that also provides income. Reason why that's important, Bishop, is not all churches are zoned high density to build a lot of units. And Logos wants to help those churches that aren't zoned that way to be able to move forward and create a new project that produces income and edifies the kingdom and serves the community.
So when you look at the property, it's got to be a unique situation. In other words, every situation is going to be different based upon the zoning of that area, whether affordable housing, multiple units is there, or whether it's not zoned for that. That's what you're saying.
That's right.
And so every plan, once you know what is capable of being put there, then you start thinking, okay, how can we leverage what is there for better use?
That's right. So one church may be in a part of the city that is high density and it's zoned by the city, zoned by the authorities to build a lot of units in a reasonably small amount of square footage. And that's our typical model right now. Another church where at this moment we're saying no to is zoned in a low density area but has all these beautiful buildings. And they're like, well, Logos, if you say no to us, we may not have the resources we need to be able to move forward. Now, no one should pretend they're a hero, including Logos. So there's many options. But whether it's us providing a direct solution or getting better at being able to refer other solutions, which is also very important. To do that, we need to put our adaptive reuse cap on.
I gotcha.
And that means we need to become more nimble about what we view as highest and best use.
So when you say refer to other uses.
Refer to other sources to help them solve
like
their
what?
problem. Other developers. Other builders.
That are specialized in different things?
In those areas,
what?
absolutely. For example, a tenant improvement general contractor, it would be specialized, a tenant improvement developer or builder would be specialized in saying, that old fellowship hall, which you are not using, in fact, you're using for storage, that old fellowship hall that you're using for storage could be turned into a great educational center and leased out to a charter school program for, I'm throwing out a number, guys, $11,500 a month in rent that could accrue back to the church. That may not be a Logos project, but we want to get good at referring them to people that can still help them, right?
So let me just clarify then. Logos is not in this to figure out how to partner with a church no matter what the circumstances. Am I hearing you right?
Absolutely. The word that comes out of my mouth most often with churches, and I say this humbly, is no. Because we are not in the business of being all things to all people, because we'll be nothing to anyone. We are affordable housing specialists. We're affordable housing developers. And that works for many churches. So we're affordable housing developers. That works for a lot of churches that are zoned properly, in that the zoning and the density allows for that kind of build. We do want to get better at being able to say yes to other kinds of projects because there's a need. And we believe we're the right folks. That Logos is operating in integrity. We speak church. We live church. We understand the needs of the church, the dynamics of the membership, et cetera. But what we can get better at sooner is saying not Logos, but HTA Construction, one of my partners, right? Or not Logos, but this architectural firm that can take you through a discernment process so you can talk to the right builder and developer. And we want to do that because we're not trying to get everyone's business all the time. That's the worst business model. We won't do anything right. We'll get B minuses. We want to get an A at what we're good at and then get good at helping people get the help they need.
Yeah. Well, and that starts with the question then, and even the topic of this particular episode is like a barn door we could drive a truck through. I mean, what is the best use of our facilities, of our buildings? You know, who defines what is best? How do you come to what is best? And I guess knowing what you look for walking into a property when somebody calls you and says, hey, would you take a look at our place? That's really helpful. And the fact that you're willing to say no, you're willing to say, we're not the ones, you need to talk to so-and-so. They're better at this than we are,
Yeah.
and they can strike a better deal than we could,
Yeah.
whatever. I think that's really critical. I guess what comes to my mind is, and I want this sort of has to be put on the back of the pastor and the board.
Yeah.
At some point, it seems to me that they've got to do their own due diligence as well.
Yes.
They've got to be able to say, this is what this church was intended to be. This is why God called us into existence. This is why this ground was sanctified, that it was dedicated to the work of God. So I guess I would say, from a church perspective, and you tell me if this fits and integrates, but they got to listen to the community. I mean, because you can't walk into a community and say, we're going to build affordable housing where there's no need for affordable housing.
Absolutely.
We're going to build a compassion center, or we're going to build a safe house for human trafficking.
Yeah.
And it's in a or we're going to build a cathedral in a cornfield.
Right. Right.
I mean, at some point, the congregation has to listen to the need of the community.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't think that's deviating from the mission of God in the world. That's what the mission of God in the world
Amen.
is.
Yes.
It's listening to the needs of the people. And then secondly, it seems to me that a church has to decide, what do we have in our hands? What are we good at? Mm-hmm. Moses, God told Moses at the burning bush, what's in your hand? And he used what was in his hand to make him into a powerful leader. So he didn't bring something special. He didn't bring a degree or a book or a toolbox. He said, what's in your hand? What do you already have?
Right.
So, I mean, I think that the local church and the pastor have to go through a discernment process of saying, we got to listen to our community. What are the needs in this community? Which means you got to get involved in the community. You can't be an isolated enclave of spirituality and
totally.
Holy rollers. And secondly, what do we have in our hand? What are we good at?
Yep.
What do we have to leverage? And then thirdly, how does that align with the mission of God in the world? And that is probably the toughest, because everybody wants to make the mission of God in the world what they want to do.
Absolutely.
So they've got to back away and listen to the Holy Spirit and say, okay, this is our community. This is what we have in our hand. We're getting a sense that the Holy Spirit wants to do these kinds of things. And we collectively, not one person, but we collectively, the consensual wisdom of the body of believers in mutuality, submitted to one another, is hearing. And then they got to take a step of faith.
The context is the community.
Yeah.
That's the context. Oftentimes I find that when churches really get this right, now I don't have the statistics for it, but you might actually have the experience behind what I'm going to say. It's when they remembered what they did right in the beginning.
Yes, their first love.
And when they go back to that, they often find their way forward.
Yep.
That when they were dynamic and exciting and engaged and invigorated, they were passionate about this particular ministry or this particular modality or this particular way of being in the community that added value to the community. And when they go back and dust that off, oftentimes that can be a springboard.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. I can't tell you how many churches I've gone into where the people have been frustrated, the board is frustrated, and they've been in decline. And they say, we just want to go back to being the way we used to. I remember when. I mean, how many times have you heard that? I remember when we were this number. I remember when we were sending missionaries. I remember when we were developing pastors. I remember this. And they just sort of long for those days. Yeah. And it's not like you can bring the church back to that, because context and culture has changed.
Yep.
But what you can do is you can say, well, let's peel away. What was it about that invigorated you?
Yep.
What was it about that was so spiritually vibrant?
Yep.
What was your passion when that happened? And all of a sudden you begin to discover that little grain, that kernel.
Yeah.
And okay, now let's water that. And
Yes.
let's see how that manifests today.
And almost always they were doing something in the community that made a difference for the community.
Yeah.
That could be, by the way, I mean, don't be so spiritual you can't be engaged in the world. But it could include our prayer ministry was vital because it was in the community. We were out praying in the community.
Yes.
So that's on the most sort of spiritual end of it. It could be very much our feeding program. We were really encountering the least, the lost, and left out. We were really hitting people in the streets and making an impact. Wherever they were making an impact, they were probably being blessed by God, and they were probably getting a positive affirmation, and feeling good about themselves.
Yeah.
We can take, we're the most complex, powerful tool. We'll build ground up. We'll build you 50 to 60 units. Wow, so exciting. We will transform your economic landscape. In principle, we will make a massive financial impact for your church.
Yeah.
All of that is good, but if it distracts from the church being the church being the bride of Christ, the church being all things to all people, the church making an impact, then it's still back to sometimes the best deals are the deals you don't do.
Yeah.
That just means we've leveraged the land, and pastors will still come and go, et cetera. It's got to be tied to the first love, to the sense of what the church can continue to do or do again better in the community.
Yeah, and that's all driven and wrapped around mission, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So I know that Logos is developing, and hopefully by the time people listen to this, there's tech going to be available.
There's tech now, but rolled out. Yes.
Yeah, it'll be rolled out, and an app, right?
Yes.
And part of that is helping pastors and church boards determine how affordable housing might be a lever by which they can fulfill their mission, right?
Well, your concern is the right concern. This is your concern. And if I get it wrong, just correct me, which is right now they're going to go into that app and put in their address, and they're going to get this raw data.
Yeah.
And it's going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah.
You can build 4 stories and 80 units, and I don't even want to actually throw the numbers out on this podcast, but it's going to be exciting and meaningful. If that's divorced from vision,
yes.
What has God told you to do? What did you all do before that was great?
Yes.
What is the sense of the community in need? Then it's just going to be a development project, and it's not going to be deeply meaningful over the long term. In fact, the development project could almost be separated from the church. It's not what we want. So you're going to go to the app, and we're going to want whomever is getting you to that app, whether it's directly on the website or whether it's the person getting you that app, giving you all the context in the world, that you're getting raw data, but you need to fill out the survey. You need to go deep and fill out the survey. If they go into the survey, Bishop, the survey starts to say, literally, what has God said to you? Mm-hmm. What were you doing right in the church before? What is your current condition? What's the condition of your community? The app is powerful to get you raw data that's connected to a back-end machine of different real estate applications that tells you what you can do on your land. By the way, it doesn't parse the data. It says basically you have 18,000 square foot. This is what you can do on all of it. You've got to go further. You've got to fill out the survey. Yep. You've got to have a prayerful sense, and then you've got to get connected to Logos to really go through a process of discernment, which includes a spiritual component of what has the Lord told you and what does the community need.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think the centerpiece to that, and you're right, it is of interest to me.
And to us.
Yeah. To Logos in general. But and I guess I'm anxious that pastors are able and willing to declare with clarity and without equivocation, this is our mission. This is what God has put us here to do. Because from that point forward, everything else then becomes a means to support that purpose, right? So the building, the projects, the layout, the footprint, all of the things that you're talking about become a means to that particular missional end, which 100%. Is the kingdom of God in this place. And that's what I mean by they've got to listen to the community. They've got to know what's in their hand, and they've got to decide, is this in alignment with the mission that God has given to us?
Yes.
So let me ask you a question. Have you gone into churches where you have sensed that is not front and center, and that's not the point of the spear?
Yes.
And what does that look like, and how do you respond to that?
If the majority of the questions are focused on finances and are monetary, If the vibe doesn't feel right, that's reasonable. We call it the move of the Spirit if the vibe doesn't feel right. But look, on the top line level, like the analytics, if the majority of the questions seem to be financially focused or silver bullet focused, Logos, in essence, after you scratch the surface, we need you to solve our problems.
Yeah.
And if there isn't a lot of internal capacity, I don't need real estate developers internally. The totality of the church, when church is done right, the totality of the membership should have a spectrum of experience level to be able to provide an advisory committee with the pastor or to be able to move through this project just fine. Don't need any PhDs, et cetera. In fact, some of the best developments we're doing, as noted in today's lunch, don't have necessarily what you and I would say are like a bunch of academics sitting in a room or business experts, but if there's a native common sense and there's a willingness to try to understand and a willingness to keep mission alive in the church. Yeah. So, but look, if the questions are financially focused, if there's a deep lack of capacity, and if there's a sense that they need Logos to be able to solve their financial problems, it's probably something we're going to say no to. And again, we say no to 90% of the folks we speak to, 80 to 90%. We do want to get that number down because we want to be able to do more for them. And we think it should be Logos doing more for them because we think Logos is a great team for them to work with. So we want to get that number down. But that just means that we're using our discernment and we're not trying to get into deals just to do deals. The best deals are the deals you don't do. No is a perfectly fine answer because this is going to get hairy and difficult and complicated. I don't mean necessarily that there won't be a great outcome. We're batting 100. I mean, we're going to need you to go to the city with us and pitch the mayor and get the city council to understand what's going on and get the planning department to move forward and get the community behind us and to rally things. And that takes capacity and passion. And if they're not passionate about ministry and they're just passionate about the bottom line, then it's disconnected from the passion that's going to be required to see this to the finish line. If you even take theology out, and we shouldn't ever, but if you just want to talk about what is going to get something to the finish line, a massive, big, exciting project that's over 50 units, passion is a big component. And there's not a lot of passion if the interlocutor, if the other side is just in it for money. That's not going to drive you to the finish line. What's going to drive you to the finish line is I think we could change the community. I think we can make a massive impact. Now, if you connect that to spirituality, you connect that to the prayer closet, you connect that to God, then you have something that is almost irresistible and can't be stopped.
Yeah.
Then you have something a city, funders, et cetera, almost just can't say no to.
Yeah. I guess just in my limited experience with some of the pastors in these land partners, of these churches that are really moving through this. I don't know how many are there now. I can't remember. 13.
Well, there's
18.
a total of 15 over the next 3 years. 5 coming out of the ground this year, 5 next year, and 5 the year after.
Yeah.
Those are the folks signed up and moving through this, and then we have a pipeline of folks we're talking to.
Yeah. So as I even talk to some of these pastors in churches, what I'm finding is when they're talking about the project itself, it's very easy for them to become focused on the logistics, the timeline, some of the finances, all of that, which is normal. And because that's an area that isn't normally not a high priority, but it's not normally an easy subject for church leaders, pastors especially, to deal with, because that's not their world, right? But when they have the confidence that somebody is walking with them through that is trustworthy, and secondly then, when you just drop a little idea, or like times, and you've seen this, where I've said, have you thought about maybe an educational component to this, where you are now helping your community, the youth of your community, get an associate's degree, get a college degree, get lined up for scholarships, get trained in the trades, learn how to operate. All of a sudden, you see the lights go on.
Yeah.
Right? And it's almost as if there is something inherent to the call of God to a body of believers in a community that when you touch those two wires, sparks begin to happen.
Wow. So what I want Logos to do with you and to get better at is to leverage coming out of the ground with bricks and mortar to catalyze and have their ministry fire come back alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those two things can happen at the same time.
Yeah.
In fact, one can be the link to the other. Those two wires can come together. I think that is Logos not just building the building, but bringing in, I'm just, because you're the one helping us with this, but bringing in a Bishop Mannoia and kind and like kind to say, okay, don't waste the moment.
Yes.
You're coming out of the ground. It's unbelievable. Like 6 stories of glass and brick and mortar and scaffolding. Here's a moment for you to come alive again in your own church, not because of the development, but alongside the development.
Yeah.
And I don't want to waste that moment. And it's an impact I want to leave. I want to go to heaven. God will see all the things that were not perfect. But I want him to say, you were additive, you were accretive, you were adding value, you were sparking something in that pastor. Most pastors got in this for the right reasons. That's my own experience. Almost all of them did. Most people that go to church, despite being fully human, are going to church for something more in their own life. And when you scratch the surface past God, and there's nothing past God, but it is having a sense of meaning, purpose, responsibility, a sense of I'm doing something in this world that makes a difference.
Yeah. So bottom line, to the best use of buildings, seems to me, is it's going to be connected to the passion of the people and what they do well, what they're holding, and the needs of the community.
Yeah.
And it's going to be different for every community.
Yes.
So to the extent that in this case, in Logos' case, may be different for other developers, but in this case, to the extent that affordable housing is a means to help the church fulfill its mission, that may look different in one segment of LA or San Diego or Portland or other cities based upon what the needs of that community really are.
It may look different, but the tie that binds is when passion comes alive,
yes,
the project gets better. And I'm going to say something again, because it's actually the further we go from looking at the bottom line, and this is biblical, the further we go away from just focusing on the bottom line, the further the bottom line gets enhanced. So the more the church comes alive with their own passion and engagement and desire to do ministry and remember their first love and want to make an impact in the community and please God, that I think gets lost sometimes. Please God genuinely, that you could almost see God smiling down on that church. The more other resources flow from that church back into the development project, including to the bottom line. When you disconnect from the bottom line and reconnect to vision, purpose, and mission, the project improves.
Yeah, that's a good word. It's a good word. We're going to dial it down in this episode.
Yeah.
But that's really, really helpful. And I know, folks, that as you listen to this, some thoughts are going on in your mind, and I'm hopeful that you will look at all the topics that we're covering here and pick the ones that are really important to you. Listen to them all, because this can be a whole process of learning and growing in leading your church. And I guess to those of you who are senior leaders, and by that I mean older ones, kind of like me, old people, right? Pastors and lay leaders. Think back to what was it that put your church in play at the very beginning? What was the thing that God put on the shoulders of your founders, the passion that God put within their hearts, with a fire in the belly? What was that just drove them to build your church to begin with? And if you're frustrated right now with feeling like you're flatlined, you're plateaued, you're not going anywhere, then take some time, reflect, pray, talk to each other, and rediscover the passion, the fire, the spark, the first love. Talk about what that is, and I think you're going to find that you're going to reconnect with the call of God on your church for your community on that holy ground, and He's got a vision for you. God bless you. Join us next time.
Amen.
Repurposing property for use in fulfilling the mission of God requires courageous people with innovative vision and a passion to make a difference in their community. Reach out to logosfaithdevelopment.com to explore what God may have in mind for your church.